Okay, I'll call to order this meeting of the Bloomington Commission on Sustainability. This is our January regular meeting. Today's Tuesday, January 9th, 2024. It's 6:01 p.m. Will the secretary please call roll?
Matt Austin.
Present.
Caitlin.
Here.
Matt Flaherty. David.
Here.
Nigella? Here.
Nolan. Emma.
Here.
John.
Here.
Jessica. Hannah. I'm here. Justin.
Here.
Alex. Heidi. And Dennis. Here.
Thank you. Today's agenda was distributed by email on Friday, January 5th. Are there any objections to adopting the agenda distributed and shown on the current screen? Hearing none, the agenda is adopted. The minutes of the December 12th regular meeting were included in the packet. Are there any corrections? I hear no corrections. The minutes are approved. We'll move on to public comment. Hi.
I'll try to keep it as short as possible. I will be resigning this month from the Environmental Commission with probably because of growing problems related to Parkinson's. But anyhow, I really would like to encourage perhaps more communication and people maybe join both commissions so that they can work together more efficiently. And because there are so many climate change related issues that are changing, and my experience with emergency disasters has been people who are of lesser means always are the ones that probably suffer the most. So we really need a balance. So one of the things we're going to be looking at is for the EC to be doing in our meeting next week is that our working group is looking at water issues primarily with things like stormwater, wastewater, but we realize that with climate change, the present models of flooding and flood zonation are probably no longer accurate, because what we're seeing in the past 2 years are these record floods that are way out of the statistical average, and where countries and regions can go from drought to flood, extreme flood and extreme drought. I'm thinking particularly of Western Europe, and as well as Australia and China and Japan, as well as North America. So this is probably one of the things we'll be looking at, is helping to mitigate what might be ahead for our community. So that's what, and hopefully I would like to see people from both commissions on both commissions. That way they have a voting role in the policies. And also thought that when we have parks and some of the other city departments like utility have interests that are really key, critical to having our community and county remain sustainable. So that's what I have to say.
Thank you, Tom.
Thanks, Don. I appreciate all your work on AC. I know you're resigning, but everyone appreciates your commitment.
We've talked a bit in here about kind of the overlap of the two committees, and I think being on one and knowing one makes it hard it's hard to assess where that is and how to facilitate that. I appreciate your idea of people serving on both committees. I'm wondering, like, I don't know what EC is up to, and that might be, maybe there's a way I could find out. As kind of a first step to how to better communicate, would it make sense for, somebody from here to go there and present on what we're doing, somebody from there to come here and present on what they're doing, what you're doing, just to kind of start some? And do you have any other ideas of how to better communicate between the two?
Talking to each other and.
Like, where does that start? You know what I mean?
Yeah, one of the thoughts I have, and I've mentioned it to Linda, who's our liaison person with the planning department, is this month's meeting is going to be on what we're going to be working on. And visitors are welcome. And since this will be more, in the past years, this has always been kind of more of an informal meeting, being part of the discussion, I think would be, I'm not speaking for the EC myself, I'm speaking as what I perceive being there and having some of the people that can make it to our Thursday, I believe it's Thursday at 6 o'clock, probably on the second floor. But, visitors are welcome, particularly ones that have shared common goals.
Thank you.
When is the next meeting?
I believe it's next Thursday at 6, usually right above us.
Okay, great. Yeah, I'll probably plan to go to that then and just sit in the crowd at least, see what's going on, introduce myself.
You could report back to us the following
Yeah.
month or so.
Yep.
That'd be the easiest way to do it.
Okay, we'll move on to report from acting chair.
Matt let me know that he won't be able to make it tonight, but the only thing that he had to report was that the city council is working on new commission appointments, and they'll be voting on that soon. So Matt may or may not be our council representative. It could possibly be Dave Rollo. I'm not really sure at this point.
Were you gonna cover in the BCOS member applications, were you gonna talk about the reapplying?
Yeah.
You were gonna talk about that? Okay. I'll go ahead and let you move on to your report.
Okay. Garden Quest's Sustainable Neighborhoods Grant application was approved, and the claim has been processed. I wanted to go through the working group grant application guide, and I apologize again for the bumpy rollout of this grant program. We've got so much going on in my department, it's hard to focus on this one thing, but we're getting the ball rolling, and we'll get all the bumps smoothed out as best we can. So if your working group has a project that they want funded, you need to follow all of these steps that's in this guide. And so you want to make sure that it's aligned with the Commission on Sustainability's mission and also the city's sustainability goals. The project has to occur within the city limits. So there's a total of $10,000 available for 2024. Hopefully we will get some of the funding from 2023 reverted back to this program. I can't make any guarantees, but I will definitely ask for that. So you just want to keep in mind that our preference is that we're going to be funding multiple projects, not just one big project. We want hopefully to fund a project in each working group if possible. So I want to take that in mind. And there's a lot of steps that's involved to go from proposing a project to getting it approved, once it's approved, and then setting up payment. And I've tried to provide all the details for how to process payments. So you just want to make sure that you read this guide and understand all of the steps that are involved. So your project team, you want to find ideally 2 or more team members who would be the project members that are really leading the project, and then one project lead. The project lead is the one that's going to be the point of contact for all of the payments that are made. And there's two options for payments, and I put all that in here. We'll go through that in a second, but you can also work with a project partner. So if you want to give a grant to a nonprofit who's going to do the specific project that you want to be implemented, or if you have a business where they are selling whatever material you need to buy, we can set up a purchase order with those project partners. Okay? So once you have your project details outlined, you're going to submit the grant application to me, and that's in the BCOS working group folder, and everyone has access to that. If you don't have access or you have problems finding it, let me know and I can email it to you, but it's in that folder. So you would email it to me, I would review it and make sure that the project is appropriate, and then once I approve it, I'll send it out to all the BCOS members to review on your own before the next meeting. And then I'll add it to the agenda. And so during that next meeting, during new business, we're going to review the grant application, and like what happened at the last meeting, you can decide whether you all want to vote for that grant application at that particular meeting, or you can vote it down and say, no, we want more time to review it, and we'll vote on it next meeting. So that ball is in your court, whether you vote on it at one meeting or two meetings. Of course, with any kind of vote that you take, quorum has to be reached. If the project is approved, I will write a grant agreement between the city and the project lead. It will have all the details about the project proposal in it, the amount. The project lead would need to submit the E-Verify form and non-inclusion form. Those will be given to the project lead to review and to submit. The grant agreement would need to be sent to legal department for their review and approval. And then again, payment. If you want, project lead can pay for all the expenses up front and be reimbursed. Another option is again to set up a vendor PO, purchase order. So the payment would be directly to that vendor. There's forms that need to be submitted, W-9 forms and electronic fund transfer forms. That's how funds are distributed by the city. There are no checks that are written. They are all distributed by electronic transfer. Okay, and then once the payment is received and you complete your project, you will need to submit a report to BCOS to review your project implementation. Okay, are there any questions about that?
Yes, can I ask a question about the last step, which is the report? Is there somewhere where they give us specifics on what they're expecting from us to report on in terms of progress?
I think that will depend on what the project is. It'll be in the grant agreement. It'll specify what you need to report on. So if it was number of compost bins that you purchased or whatever it is, all of those details will be in the grant agreement.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
How would it work if say somebody was a project lead for something and it's a project that they're doing over the course of say 6 months, and 3 months into it they have to leave the commission for whatever reason, something came up in life or something, they move away. Is there like a procedure in place to be able to transfer the project lead to somebody else, or how would that kind of situation get addressed?
Yeah, you would need to do that. That's a good question. Yeah, I will add that in here.
Okay, great.
That hopefully since there's two project leaders.
Yeah, I
the
could just
project lead
transfer to
second
the other
would
one or
be-
something. Yeah.
That's a good question.
Okay.
But as far as, payment, they would already be paid as a reimbursement, so It's not like we've given them money and they've walked away with it.
Sure,
We're just
right.
reimbursing them, so.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Okay.
What about project failure?
What would an
So if-
example of project go, do you think?
We'll say your project requires a lot of startup costs, or something that requires to get off the ground, but then maybe it proves not to be viable, so the project has to stop altogether. Now you've already spent money on resources or procurement, and that's, there's no, I mean, you still show what you did with it, but the outcome is not going to be what was proposed.
Yeah, I think the
Every
proposal.
project that I've ever been on, the outcome's never quite
Yeah.
there.
Yeah, there's no guarantees. That's why I
Maybe
wanna
it's me.
see really detailed project proposals and what are your fail-safe measures going to be if something goes wrong.
Perfect.
So, yeah, really strong project management needs to be proposed.
Okay.
But as far as something falls apart and doesn't happen, that's why I prefer, especially this initial year of funding, we wanna see smaller projects proposed and just see how well those projects are managed before we go for bigger ones,
Gotcha.
so.
I can just say that there's only two methods we can access these funds, either being reimbursed,
Yeah.
which means that at some level there's already been a success because materials have been purchased and now we're asking to be reimbursed. Or the second method is to get some sort of vendor, which I'm guessing you will, on some level, vet that vendor to make sure that they're, and then that would be like any supplier failing to fulfill their end, right?
Well,
Or-
remember when we were talking about having potentially those heat monitors by the wireless access points around the city?
Yeah.
Say that we started off, everything looked good, but as we got them, we found out that either there was a flaw in manufacturing, or we didn't have the application to support them. But now we've purchased these devices that we cannot deploy.
Yeah, if they're malfunctioning, I would ask that you return them to the vendor and get a refund or, something like that, but I think, I'm not real worried unless it's obvious that there's intentional fraud or something happening.
Okay, that's where
Yeah,
I
I
got you.
We want a situation
So
where
I just wanted to make sure that
Uh-huh.
we're personally responsible for unforeseen outcomes.
right, yeah, I think with any project that you try to implement, there's going to be things that come up, but try to mitigate that as best you can.
Gotcha.
And, and I'm sure, I can try to provide as much support as I can to make sure those projects are successful.
Okay. Just a
But.
general question for all projects.
I have a different question. So is there a way to make the grant a little more equitable? Because when you're talking about reimbursement, obviously somebody has to have enough money
Right.
in their pocket to do that,
Mhm.
or we would be at the mercy of the committee to hire a vendor, which is probably gonna be a higher dollar amount, right?
Right, that's why I added that second option, because, right, maybe we don't have, extra funds lying around to pay for a project up front and wait for reimbursement, so that's why I put that second option in there.
What's the
to
second option?
pay-
A vendor.
To pay for a vendor.
Okay.
So that means that you have to get a nonprofit or a
Yeah.
business to do it, which is a higher dollar.
Yeah.
Just,
So I'm just saying, for example, if we wanted to get the specialty recycling containers into a lower income neighborhood, I don't know that we would have an individual in that neighborhood who could front the money to purchase them to be reimbursed.
Well,
So
they
that-
wouldn't be purchasing them, you would, one of the project
Sure.
owners would be.
But if I'm as a B-cost knower, that doesn't mean I'm coming from a certain socioeconomic
No, I know.
background either.
Exactly,
So-
that's why we've got this second option.
Sure.
Yeah. Yeah.
But still, I don't know that are there any vendors or nonprofits who could help get, compost or recycling bins put in lower income neighborhoods? Or just
So
because those
that's
people are lower income, they won't be able to access the money to do projects like that?
The way
Just
that I
something to think
envision-
about.
The way I envision it is, so if you want to install compost bins for a low-income residential area, So you would submit an application,
There's
and
someone
you
wanting
would,
to get in.
and you would put in there that you're gonna maybe go through Bloomington Hardware to purchase those compost bins. So I would set up a purchase order with Bloomington Hardware and pay Bloomington Hardware directly. And then you, as the project lead, would make sure that you work with that residential area to get them installed. And to
Trying to avoid a situation where
educate
we
them
pay
on how to
ourselves
use
to do
them.
things.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
It doesn't look good.
Well, we've already.
Are there any limitations on the dollar amount? For Durham, there are limitations on over a certain dollar amount. You have to go to get multiple quotes from hub vendors or historically underutilized businesses. I think it's over like 3,500 or something like that. And anything like 30,000. I know it's not this, but you have to put out an RFP for certain things. I know we're probably not going to get into that dollar amount,
Yeah.
but I know as far as putting together multiple quotes and utilizing minority-owned businesses and that kind of thing, are there city requirements?
No, we don't have any requirements like that. If it's for a vendor, they have to submit an E-Verify statement, which says that they,
Are they like registered with the
it's
city?
like non-discrimination, they have non-discrimination policies and
Okay.
things like that, so,
Like
but that's
we-
with every
okay.
vendor that we work with, it doesn't matter the dollar amount. Any type of grant agreement or, service agreement, they have to submit that E-Verify.
Okay, I can get into the details with you later, like
Yeah,
the state
yeah, sure.
contracts and
Yeah.
that kind of thing.
Yeah.
But yeah,
So-
I'll take your time now.
I think for RFQs and RFPs, if it's anything over $10,000, I could be wrong about that, but
Okay.
it's a higher dollar amount than what I'd be looking for to approve
Gotcha.
with BCOS, so.
What would be the general, like, payback period from, like, when a commissioner expended their own funds to
Uh-huh.
being reimbursed?
So once the project is approved, and then you say, once you get it approved, you go out and you purchase the things, you submit the claim to me, and I have it in here. I wouldn't recommend that you go out and purchase anything until you become approved by our controller's office, and you do that by submitting a W-9, your W-9 and EFT form, and that takes about 2 weeks to get you in the system, because again, the only way that you're paid is through electronic transfer. So you have to have that set up first, so that takes about 2 weeks. Let me back up. The grant agreement to go to legal is going to take at least 2 weeks to get that approved. Once you get approved by the controller's office, that'll take about 2 weeks. We can try to do that simultaneously. It all depends on how busy the legal department is too. As we saw last year, sometimes it takes a long time for things to get approved. So we send it to legal, they get approved. At that same time, we'll go ahead and get your W-9 and EFT form submitted to the controller's office to get you into the system. And then once you're approved and you submit the claim to me, I put it into the claim cycle. And again, it depends on when we pay claims every 2 weeks. So it depends on when you submit the claim to me and I get it into that claim cycle. It could take up to 4 weeks. If you're at the beginning of a claim cycle, I submit it. It takes 2 weeks during that claim cycle, and then they pay out 2 weeks later.
Essentially, if you waited till all your approvals were through to purchase
Yeah, it would
anything,
wait.
it would be roughly 2 weeks, right?
Depending on the claim cycle.
Depending, right?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Just good to know.
I know, it's a lot of steps and a lot of details, so. I think once we start going through them and working through them, we'll all get the process down, and
Mm-hmm.
it'll become clear.
Same question I think we'll have about the sustainable neighborhoods thing. Are there specific deadlines for this? And is it worth having some to say, like, April 1st deadline for the year, or 2 deadlines a year? Or is, just to avoid kind of a first come, first serve? This is something we discussed a little bit last month.
Yeah, I'd like to hear your thoughts on that. I'm open to setting it up either way, ongoing cycles or quarterly reviews.
Yeah, personally, I think some sort of quarterly, or maybe 3 quarters in the year, and we skip the December, January, just because it's more complicated with the turnover. So what we don't want is a situation where one group is applying for a large fund, another group is applying for part of that fund, but they're not completely. We're a situation where we don't have everything in hand, right? So you're applying for something, but the month before, somebody else kind of gets the jump on it, and we don't really know. Do you know what I mean?
That funding for because it will be in my budget every year.
Right,
With
but
respect to that
if like, you know, one group applies for a bunch of stuff in January and the other group's not gonna be ready until March, and by that point, the money's been distributed, it just seems like some sort of, have everything in by this point, so we can say, here are the kind of competing things.
You'd rather look at a pool than
Yes,
a rolling application
absolutely, yeah.
process.
Well, I was just gonna say, something I'm gonna talk about a little later might address that, to where we're all presenting our own projects, to the group, so that we can all get behind them, and then
Yep.
that'll stop us, we'll be
Yep.
able to track the budget as we
And,
go.
and another way to do it is to kind of be like, as a group, here is how we think about distributing, you know, work up a plan for 2,000, work a plan for 4,000,
Right.
and kind of operate within that. So if there's more strategic thinking at the group level, we don't need to have a pool. And I don't know, with 3 working groups, that we're gonna have a pool at any time. But it seems like either a deadline or a strategic plan from the beginning to be like, you know, use approximate a third each or something, and then we can discuss variability. I just don't want that situation where it's like, oh, here's a good one, cool, and then missing what might be coming.
That's what I was thinking,
Can
about
we-
3,000, 3,500 per project, per
Mhm.
working group.
Okay.
Maybe during the working group reports, if wherever the working groups are with their proposal, they can just give like a little temperature check, like,
Yeah.
hey, we got this movement and we think we're gonna need about $2,000, so
Mhm.
we're gonna be a little under budget. Or, hey, we really wanna do this, it's gonna cost 4, is anyone else under budget?
Yep.
Before proposals are even finished.
Yep.
We already have those updates built into the schedule, so I think that might be a good place to, you know. And then
starting
if,
with-
you know, it gets down to it and like we're still doing discussions, maybe we cross the deadline
Mhm.
bridge.
Yeah. Yeah, and
I don't know.
we're not gonna have 10, 20 grant
Yeah,
proposals.
yeah,
And
it
if
won't be
it's
a
like
bunch.
everybody plan for 3,000 plus or minus, and if you don't need it, someone else might scoop it up, but let's, you know, keep that conversation going, that would make sense as well.
Okay, great. Any other questions about this? Okay. All right.
And that's on the Google Drive, right?
The
The
application?
guide?
Yeah.
Yeah,
And the guide, yeah.
I think she called it too.
The guide?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so the last agenda item for me is talking about reappointments. I've asked the Office of the Mayor and the City Clerk to write up guidance for me because I've never really been trained on any of my duties really with BCOS. And so the reappointment question came up and I really didn't know how to answer it. So they're gonna write up a guide for me and also for commission members to know
Good.
how to apply and all of that. So, so there's a link here. If you go to the, if you just Google City of Bloomington Commissions, you'll find this apply page, and so it's all the information he has. And you guys have done this before. That's how you're
Yeah.
here. So, so if you're due for reappointment, you want to reapply, and then the Office of the Mayor is reviewing all of the applications, and will be making determinations. I think they said they're hoping to make determinations by the end of next week. So, okay.
So get them in really quick.
Yeah, so just so everyone knows, like, your term, when you can see where your term expires, and it's on the bloomington.in.gov board sustainability page. Some are year appointments, some are 2-year appointments. So, just looking at this now, Matt is up for expiring. Heidi, who's not here, Dennis, myself, Najla, and this is not to call anyone out, this is just so you guys are aware,
No.
and John as well.
So called out right
I didn't even see.
I know.
I'm just kidding. So just so everyone knows, in case you are interested in reapplying.
And that reapplication should be done by next week,
I
or?
would do it as soon as possible since
Yep.
they're reviewing applications.
Okay.
Yeah. And I didn't put this on the agenda, but I just wanted to show this to you in case you guys haven't seen it, the program guide. We spent a lot of time putting in our sustainability programs in there, so I wanted to let you know about that and just help to get the word out about it. And then tomorrow, I'm hosting our first climate action workshop at Switchyard. It's in person at the pavilion, and it's also going to be by Zoom webinar. And so I think it's going to be a really amazing talk. I have Rewiring America, which is a nonprofit organization. They're going to be talking about all of the IRA tax incentives. So that'll be great. And so if you can help get the word out about these workshops, I would really appreciate it.
Tomorrow at
What time?
From
Switchyard noon to 12:45.
Oh, okay, so lunch, middle of the day, okay.
Yeah. And if you go to ESD's Facebook page, there's a social media, there's a post about it with the Zoom link and passcode. Yeah. Okay. That's all I have.
Oh, that's me, sorry. Putting it in my calendar.
Oh, I'm sorry, Emma, I talked about Matt during the
That's okay.
during your,
I
did you
didn't
have
really
anything to say? You
No,
didn't
I
have,
didn't.
okay.
I would have said it anyway,
Sorry.
so it's okay. Okay, we'll move on to reports from commissioners. Just transition.
Sure, we have just a little update from our 2023 goals and looking ahead to 2024. Just to remind everyone, we had 3 goals that we set. Identify and assess the material and socioeconomic implications of the eventual fossil fuel phase out in our community. In regards to that project, we made contact with Indiana Geological Survey and they presented here for the commission, in addition to the Community Land Trust and Duke Energy. And Safe Cities, which is in line actually with our second goal, which is to promote intersectional collaboration among the city stakeholders, boards, commissions, community organizations, as it aligns with just transitions. In addition to all of the organizations I named, we also made contact with the Indiana Recovery Alliance and Ecologic and the Environmental Commission here recently. But those 2 contacts were in regards to basically trying to address the social and sustainable intersection. And then finally, we wanted to collaborate more with Summit Hill and city staff and other key stakeholders to talk about housing sustainability. Now, you guys are probably already aware that the last quarter of the year we spent trying to prepare a preparation for the grant proposal. So we shifted our trajectory a little bit, but we were able to make some great headway on some ideas for some sort of social impact sustainability project, and we plan to refocus and re-gear up for what's going to be a better grant proposal now that we have a longer lead time. So that's kind of where we're at right now. Najla, I know you in 2024 plan to continue your work with Safe Cities and the fossil fuel non-proliferation treaty. Do you want to talk about that, or?
Yeah, so I think we've achieved the first goal of researching the actual economic drivers behind the fossil fuel proliferation problem, and so what we're hoping to do in 2024 is to kind of assemble all that information and decide on a good educational trajectory with that, whether that is, probably first just with the commission, and then maybe later on with other commissions and possibly, with other community people in the other community organizations.
Community outreach.
So the sort of 3 goals that we had for 2023 was to finalize the engagement strategy that we were working on and start executing on that, to establish relationships with the top 7 partners that we identify, and then to complete or at least get the ball rolling on some sort of collaborative or outreach project there. So can't say we've checked off any of those goals completely. Number 1 is pretty close, and number two is not going to take too much work to get rolling. I think, we've got this spreadsheet with a bunch of organizations that we might want to work with, and I think some of the easier sort of low-hanging fruit is maybe to just start attending some of these other commission and board meetings, because they're in this building, they're easy to get to. Environmental Commission would be a great one to start with there. And so I'm going to look at the schedule for some of these meetings, and over the next month just try to pop in and at least just listen and introduce myself if I can, and just to start generating ideas of where there might be potential for collaboration there. What that means going into 2024, I think, is that these goals are still sort of, active, but once we check the first, couple off, then we'll think about additional goals to add for end of year 2024. So that's the status.
Waste management.
The one major update is that the Monroe County Solid Waste District Board of Directors is creating a organic waste task force. So I'm going to be on that organic waste task force as a representative from BCause. And the good thing is they have $50,000 in their budget for which to address organic waste issues. And their desire is to partner with the city and with IU. This is by no means what's going to happen, but like an ideal situation would be one of the three entities donates the land, the other two entities somehow fund the workers, and we have our own organic waste to replace what we've lost with Earth Keepers. So they would really like to combine forces, and they're putting $50,000. They have that in their budget with which to do that. So the first meeting, I think, is on the 22nd of the task force, and I will report back based on what we see there with what the ideas they have that we come up with.
The task force with, what's the company's name again?
It's
the
the
main
Monroe, it's the
provider.
Monroe County Solid Waste District.
District, the
Yeah.
whole district.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's essentially the county,
Gotcha.
and they're the ones that have all the recycling centers, et cetera, et cetera. So
Mhm.
they really want to address the organic waste issues, and they would like to partner with the city and with IU, ideally. But if that doesn't happen, they still have the 50K with which to implement ideas. So if there's any
Kind of an
ideas that-
intergovernmental partnership,
Yes.
a little bit. Okay.
way better than how I said it.
No. I just was trying to figure out the map
So
here.
I guess my point in saying that is that there's other funds, so if there's some larger
Yeah.
ideas that people have, please pass them on to me when it comes to organic waste, and then I can present those as well. So just potentially more firepower for us to address the issues of organic waste in the city and county.
Yeah.
Cool. Okay, we'll move on to discussions, not resolutions. Sustainable Neighborhoods Grant Application Assistance.
So, we talked about this a little bit, and there's kind of two things here I'd like to talk about. One is, do we do a deadline for the Sustainable Neighborhoods thing? What do we deal with, how do we handle those? Because I think we're gonna get more than 3 applications, how to deal with that through the year. We talked about that a little bit last time, didn't really resolve it, so I want to bring that up. And then another is, I think a lot of these groups could probably use some assistance with that, and I think we could provide that. I'd be happy to. I don't need to be the person to, but I have some grant writing experience, and I imagine these groups don't. So some sort of contact mentorship sort of thing, talking them through the projects they want, helping them think about the planning and putting together a proposal. I don't know what these groups are like, but I thought that might be something we could provide, and that's something I'd be happy to help with. So I just kind of wanted to throw that out there for discussion. Grant writing is a pain. It's not obvious. Any thoughts on those two things of deadlines and then kind of mentorship?
Are you looking for like volunteers, or are you?
No, I
looking
just I think we should, I think the deadline is that something we would want to do? We had brought this up last time, but hadn't really resolved anything. Sean, help me if I'm misremembering things. The question of how do we do a rolling open application? Do we want to change that? I don't remember getting to any resolution on that, so I'm gonna bring that up again.
Yeah.
And also the deadline is gonna be really wrapped up, I think, in marketing and advertising, which I think is gonna be our biggest hurdle.
How to get the word out for
Yeah,
that.
I want people to get the word out, cause,
Yep.
you know, I hate for the money to just sit latent, you know,
I'm talking about it at the
yeah,
webinar tomorrow. I'm gonna announce
Okay.
it
Okay,
as well.
cool.
But every chance I get, I talk about
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
of course.
But,
But you don't give a deadline or anything, just that
Yeah.
it's available.
right,
The money has to be used by the end of the year,
right.
well, then
Do you,
give it a
Okay.
3
I
month.
mean, we don't really have, because it's such a new program, we don't really have any idea, I mean, are we gonna get 3 applications in a year, or 30, or what are we looking at, right?
I would say just keep it as a ongoing
Open.
basis, just
Mhm.
until, for this first year, and then if we see we've got, 5
Okay.
proposals in one meeting that we're trying to go through, then do the deadlines, but.
This gets in the same question regarding the working group things, which is like, if we know there's other projects in the pipeline that are a month out, if we don't know that, it's hard to distribute funds in any kind of clear way, cause you're like, oh, it's the best project we have now. We don't know that next month there's a much better project coming, or that there's 10 projects coming. So the assistantship could help with that, to say like, here, there's, 5 projects in the works that are gonna come up in the next couple months. Let's keep those in mind as we make a decision now.
How would that individual know that there's 5 projects coming up? I'm
Well,
just
that's
curious.
some sort of, a bit more communication instead of
Okay.
like waiting for the submission,
I
putting out the
see.
call and waiting for the submission.
Like
I think it'd be
something like
beneficial
contact
for-
so-and-so if
Yeah,
you're interested in
yeah,
this.
and
Yeah.
they'll talk you through the process.
I see.
Mostly, having seen what you, like all the stuff you're doing last month, I was like, this is not something, you have enough going on, I imagine?
We could always have. This is a BCOS-led project, really,
Yeah.
I'm just
Yeah.
trying to get the word out
Yeah.
about it, but really it's your projects and your funding and.
We could always have people just submit like a required, just like, not letter of intent.
Yeah, yeah, no,
something
that's
just
a
like,
good idea.
not,
Well-
doesn't need to be formal, but maybe just like something, and then we give them the go-ahead to fill out an application, and then we could provide assistance if necessary,
I
but.
I actually think a letter of intent makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
The only thing is,
But,
I agree with that idea. I just don't think a letter of intent is, I don't think it's formal enough. Because if some people, this is gonna end up being a queue if we have a lot of applicants. People that get their letter of intent and, and then project plan never comes down the line. They're taking up the spot of somebody that comes in with a project plan and budget proposal.
that's not how a letter of intent works, it more just gives us a heads up that there's this interest and there's
Right.
potential thing in the pipeline.
But
Like,
where's
until
the
the
approval?
submission's there,
Oh, I see what you're saying.
like,
So if,
and so I think the deadline would help with that.
Yeah.
If we had quarterly deadlines, or, in April, August.
Can I
October,
make a
whatever.
suggestion? I'm just wondering, maybe because this is the first year, we're kind of testing the waters. I lean the opposite direction. I'm gonna be quite frank. I don't think there's gonna be a queue. I think we're gonna be trying to find people and we should not be creating more barriers, like write an extra letter.
I don't,
Now do a proposal, and I don't know that that's what you're suggesting, but I like the idea of deadlines because, not as a limiting factor, but because it lets people know, hey, get this in and we'll review it. So I don't know if there's a way to like put on even the website, on the BCOS page, like, next we're meeting February, 9th or something? I don't know the date actually, but the next meeting is when we'll consider whatever applications are there. So it's kind of like more benchmark. And then every BCOS meeting is a deadline in and of itself. So just basically like get any I just think we're gonna have a hard time getting people to apply
but
for
the
this.
problem
I don't
is
know.
the problem we had in December is like, we have $10,000 in one application, like, oh yeah, I mean, I guess so, why not, right? Come September or October, you're like, oh, we spent 2,000 out of 8, like, we need to start spending money quickly. This is often how it works with grants. is that-
Yeah, I just think
You
that
like-
that's part of the learning
So, but if we're like,
experience, though.
hey, it is, so if a letter of intent is enough to turn somebody away, they're not gonna get the actual proposal done. Like, if that's enough of a hurdle to be a barrier, like, a paragraph submission to show us what's, like, say we're interested in, we'll follow up with some feedback. I like the idea of providing some assistance, and again, I'm happy to do so, that could be, 2-3 people. It could be based on, does it align with the working group, we'll have somebody contact you, just to talk through and be like, here's what you need to think about with project management, here's the like red flags we see with your project. The other nice thing with a deadline, skipping gears there. It could be like, well, we didn't give you the deadline, or we didn't give you funding as of April, here are things we'd like to see, resubmit by August, and we'll reconsider it.
I can
Like-
give you some advice based on what I'm going through right now with the climate pollution reduction grant application. I have to submit an intake form for every project that I want funded. And so the intake form, and we could do this for this program, the intake form will just be like, rough idea, what do you plan to do, what is your rough estimate of how much it will cost, how will you implement it, how is this? So maybe just 4 or 5 questions, and then that's just like a pre-review to say, yes, go forward and get your actual cost estimates, don't waste, this way people don't waste their time getting all this together and we say, oh, it's not appropriate.
Yeah, if they put something together, we've never seen it until it's finalized and submitted, like,
A project charter. So
A
it's an
project what?
initiating document that,
Yeah.
that says,
Yeah.
this is what I plan to do.
yeah, letter of intent, whatever, but
Yeah.
yeah.
I'm gonna cover this in a second.
I think that would help
Okay.
with some initial screening. I don't think it'd be a huge barrier, and I think it would allow us then follow up, like us rather than you, Sean, because I think you have enough to do,
Yeah.
and be like, yeah, here's a good idea, here's things to consider, or like, okay, here's next step, or like, well, maybe you could tweak it and make it a little more relevant. I don't know. I just, having done grants, there's often not much feedback. When you do get it, it's really valuable. And so being now on this side, it'd be nice to provide that service.
It sounds like you have a really high interest. I would definitely be on board with like maybe having your email, or maybe we could even create a general BCOS email or something.
I would also
That's
be
like,
happy
if
to
you need
do
assistance,
that.
contact this individual.
Yeah.
I still am gonna say, like, I don't think we should be adding more forms. I think if it says right in there, if you'd like assistance, or if you wanna learn more about the program, we add the contact, we're giving, the lifeline to them. They're gonna reach out, and anything they send in an email is gonna be basically what you'd see on an intake form or a letter of intent.
Yeah,
But-
no, I mean like a little text box.
Sure.
Or an email, either way. Like, it doesn't need to be particularly formal, but, if they can't summarize in 3 sentences, that's
Some
not
people
gonna be a
can't read
problem.
and write.
Yeah, but they probably aren't gonna then do a full submission, you know what I mean?
I also am wondering too, like, is BCOS planning to be, how much of our time are we wanting to spend on, like, grant reviewing? If we're gonna be reviewing intake forms and giving, would just your working group do the review of the intake forms?
That's a fair question. Part of the benefit of a deadline is we're not if it's every month is a deadline, then we're constantly being like, here's a new one, let's consider it. Here's a new one, let's consider it. Makes more sense to be like, here's 5, let's consider them. Here's 3 we'll give money to, here's 2 we'll bump to the next time, we'll give
Yeah,
some
I
Like
feedback.
how
also-
our meetings are
I
set
also
up,
think we
but-
should have a deadline, either like whether it's a hard deadline or a soft deadline, because it will give like an urgency for people to apply. Because if it's just a rolling deadline, then people are going to be like, oh, I'll wait until the end of the year, and then we're going to have a bunch of applications at the end of the year or something like that. I think some sort of soft deadline throughout the year would help
So, does it-
mitigate that.
I'm just wondering with the deadline thing, are applications stuck waiting until we hit that deadline too?
I don't know.
Cause that's another thing to
Yeah,
consider.
yeah, I mean, it's-
Like if it's a winter focused project, but our deadline's technically not till April,
Mhm.
we'll miss. Just-
Is anybody gonna get one before April, realistically?
I'm
you
not
know?
sure, our original proposal was winter mitigation for,
Are we talking about neighborhood grants or
Yeah.
Yeah.
commissioner
Grants.
grants?
The neighborhoods.
Right.
Well, I'm
So
not sure.
that's reliant on,
because Sean's talking about it now, like and advertising it now, but we haven't decided deadlines or anything, so.
I was just distinguishing the 2 grants, cause your guys' intent for a
Commissioner
commissioner
grant is
grant
working
is
group
beside.
grant,
I
that's
hear
what
you,
else.
I hear you.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I think maybe since we've had discussion, does there need to be a vote on whether to create deadlines for the neighborhood grants, like quarterly deadlines? Is that what's being proposed?
I would propose that.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea. That's a good.
Like, and I think it's January 1st, I would do just 3 quarters and skip
Yep.
winter because of the budget turnover and whatnot, I think it's complicated. So it's
So
like
it'd be
April 1st,
March.
August 1st, October,
Right, if they
November,
submit
whatever the
something
next
in
3 months after August.
September, they're never gonna get it done by the end of the year.
Yeah,
Right.
and turning something in December
Potentially
doesn't help,
not
but
even.
Okay, so like the last date we would be willing to entertain would be September or October.
For the.
For reviewing, for
October
reviewing, for
1st. If it takes a
approval.
month to do anyway, as we
Okay.
found out, like.
So, okay,
Well, and remember, it takes 2 meetings I know like December was a
Mhm.
special, so
Yep.
we.
So, like,
So
we look
the
at it
deadline could be
October,
September, so we review them September and October, but then there's a decision made by the end of the October meeting.
I'd rather do every 3 months and skip the rollover the new year, but that's pretty arbitrary, that's you know what I mean?
Well,
Maybe,
I don't think that's what I was asking. I was just saying like the end
So
of 3
October.
quarters, so like March or
So like everything turned in
April.
between now and April 1st goes into one pool, we consider in one meeting, and it goes through the process. Everything between, you know, May, June, July gets considered on August 1st or whatever meeting is, and then the same up until September. And then like if they want to submit in December, we'll consider it with the April one. I don't know, it, like, maybe we have a January 1st one, that's fine.
we
It
could
just seems
also,
complicated. but-
today, set the date for the first cutoff and
And then
revisit it
see,
once
yeah.
we've experienced what it's like, how many
Mhm.
applications we
Sure.
get,
I've
and
heard
what that
April a
process is
couple
like.
times.
It's just quarterly.
Yeah, no, and I think it makes sense because it's right when people are really thinking about spring, summer, and our April meeting, is it on the 9th?
It's the second Tuesday.
It always the second
Oh
Tuesday.
man, Eclipse is the 8th, that's gonna be crazy.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
At least it's not on the 8th.
So
Yeah,
then
at least
our
not the
May,
8th, but, like,
our May
Just getting to town
would be the
would still be wild.
14th.
Yeah.
Our May meeting would be the 14th
Yeah, so
then.
you'd be reviewing them April and May.
Mhm.
What if you just did 2 deadlines?
That's fine.
So you did like a spring and then like fall.
Yeah,
So
that's
like
fine.
August and
I also
September,
don't think we need to
or-
figure out the second one yet either, but
That's
I do
true.
like the 2.
That's true.
Because the 2 kind of makes it feel like 2 kind of seasons.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, the fact it's gonna take 2 months plus, 2 months for approval plus time to disperse means like, if they're applying in April, it should be for a summer project, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? And so that.
Yeah.
What about rejected proposals if that come in early?
I would send them feedback
Oh, right,
and
that's-
send
so
them
then you give
feedback
them
and be
another
like,
chance.
you know, make some changes, we'll bump you to the next one. That way, if we have, come to December or come to September, whatever, we're like, well, let's still consider the best ones going back, if they're still viable, if they're still active.
I wanna make this as easy for my staff as well, because whatever changes we make, I have to change all the materials, the website.
Mhm.
So I
Right.
think today we need to decide your deadline cutoff, so I can change the website, make that clear.
And if we, it's probably easier for you if we decide all the deadlines for the year instead of saying, let's start with April and then see about the next one. Like, would it be easier for like April 1st, August 1st done, or whatever?
Should we see what reception is like first?
Well, that's what I'm saying
Yeah.
is that gonna be an issue for your staff if we're like, let's start with an April deadline and then we'll add more deadlines as needed?
Or vice versa,
Because
if
we're
we
gonna
don't
have
start
to
with the deadline.
communicate this to people.
Right.
Right,
So-
but if you haven't already, and you're already starting to spread, to promote it, by the time that we
Yeah,
get that
I
process.
can wait.
And
But
if there's not
could
many
we,
left,
could we
if there
start
isn't
without
much, yeah.
a
Without
deadline,
announcing.
and then see how it's received, and if we start getting a ton of applicants, then we can put a
You
deadline
also
in
frame
place.
it as like first round.
Yeah.
Of review.
Of
Or priority
reviewing.
deadline or something,
Yeah,
April
so like
1st,
there'll
you
be like insinuating that there'll
you
be
can
a
turn in-
second rounds, but we're not specifying when those would be.
Yeah.
First review date,
Yeah,
April,
deadline.
whatever, deadline,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, instead of a deadline, we could say like, we will begin reviewing
Initial
them on April
review,
1st,
yeah.
or something like that, yeah.
And approvals.
We'll begin April 1st.
Mhm.
Submit your proposals now for an April.
Yeah, and maybe that we say like submit by
For-
April
for-
1st for summer activities.
Yeah, for
You know, we-
approval in
Yeah.
May, yeah.
Contact the committee if you'd like some assistance.
Second question, let's get to that later, but, so, for the deadlines, like, is there some consensus forming here of doing a deadline, if so,
I think
when?
I
much we
think we're
need?
hearing April,
I think April.
at least one deadline, trajectory
Yeah,
April.
So,
first round deadline.
And like a
Right.
soft deadline, so.
Yeah, submit whenever you want, but we may not consider it until
Yeah.
later, right? Like, so, does it work for your staff and the website and such to say, if we just say priority deadline is April 1st, will be accepted beyond that? Or something like that, like what, or would you rather we plan out the whole year now?
Consideration or something.
Yeah, and that's fairly common, a lot of your priority deadlines are kinda,
How much
Fall
impact-
dates
how much
upcoming.
impact is
Like,
this gonna have on your resume?
applications will be
I don't think we need
accepted
to
any
talk about
time,
the
but full
future.
consideration. Well, no, but the question is, do you wanna make one change now for the whole year? Or you mentioned telling your staff, changing the materials, changing the website. Do you want us to plan deadlines for the whole year, or is it sufficient to say April 1st priority deadline, and then maybe create an August 1st priority deadline later?
I'm okay with, since we don't know how many we're going to
Okay.
receive and what this is gonna look like, we can go back and change it after April if we need to, but
Okay.
we can just start with the April 1st
Start with April.
deadline. Yeah,
I
that's
think
fine.
that's great.
Do we want to vote on that, or are we all pretty comfortable with some wording along the lines of priority deadline or full
Any
consideration
objections?
or? No.
So
You're
you
good.
have the wording in the notes, I'll just take it off of
Yep.
the notes, okay.
Okay.
So the other related issue is assisting with that. Well, one, some sort of letter of intent, or like contact us with your question. Maybe we'll get back to you. Maybe it'll be a bunch of kind of crackpot ideas. I don't know. Send some sort of assistance, mentorship. Again, I'm happy to do that. Hannah said you're happy to do that. I know how valuable that is when you're writing grants, and so I feel like for people who have probably never written grants, that might be a game changer of getting it done versus not. I'm happy to do that. Anybody not want me to, or like
I think
Any
it's a
better
great
ideas?
idea. And then I also think, like, if any members here are involved with any community organizations or your own neighborhood,
Mhm.
you yourself could be the liaison to, I think you already did that. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
So, like, I could start in my neighborhood and say, oh,
Mhm.
I've got this person or this neighbor who wants
Yeah.
to do it, and now I'm their contact, kind of a
And
thing.
I would not make it mandatory. I think letter intent doesn't even need to be mandatory, but it's a good idea. It's like for initial feedback, send us a quick summary to have that option, and then be like, if you want assistance, contact us or whoever. So it's not like you have to go through these channels, but if you're not comfortable writing grants, if you're not comfortable with doing this project development, contact us for assistance. I think just putting it out there as an option would be sufficient.
We can add that to the website, but
Yeah.
I don't think I can put anyone else's emails on a city website app, but they'll just
Probably just as well.
email me and.
Just one more
And
thing.
you
on
can
your
forward
inbox.
it along.
Yeah.
Just forward it
Just
along.
forward it to you. I only get about 40
There's
emails
like
a
an
day.
FW, right there. That makes it easy.
Okay, does that wrap up what you wanted to talk about?
Yep, think so.
Okay. Great, okay, we're gonna move on to Propel.
All right, so this, I'm dating this name, I'm not in love with it. It can change, but I needed something to work with.
Thank you.
And this was also supposed to be a slide presentation, but then I started getting out a little over my skis. This is what I was kind of talking about as far as having project proposals come through. So this is kind of just for initiation. It's just project charter, high-level work breakdown structure.
I don't know any of those terms, so.
So the work breakdown structure is the tasks needed at a high level to achieve what you want. And the persuasion map is kind of the business case, but because we're not doing anything for revenue or profit, it's just showing the value to everybody involved. And, well, the last one isn't actually related, but it was something I wanted to kind of tie in anyway. But this is what I've been discussing for a couple months now. I wanted to bring it to you guys first because the first action is to formally create the working group and recruit a couple of you to help me pull this off. I'm looking for 2 to 3 people, probably about an hour a week, and an additional 2 to 3 hours a month. And that changes in the different parts of the life cycle of the project. But for the most part, it's helping me to generate content and engage the community and the school and the businesses. But if we start off with the purpose is to engage talented students in City of Bloomington endeavors and generate awareness, interest, and experience in skill of project management. I think formalizing project management within our own group will help us achieve everything that we want to do. You'll notice that there's no project sponsor yet. That was kind of a weird position for me because I've always had a project sponsor. It's how I get work. But I think that feeling out the other commissions, the other departments, I've tacit support from at least 2 council members and the mayor. Getting that kind of background or institutional support will help bring others into the fray. I won't read it all to you, but as far as the budget goes, I want you to make sure that I want you to realize that it's a rough order of magnitude, which means that my foundational premise was about $200 a month, and that range is 25% less or 75% more than my expectations. For 2024, of course, it would only be for the last 3 months, so it's yeah, it wouldn't be the entire budget. What I really need is assistance, like I said, in approaching the different departments, putting together a formal proposal or marketing materials. I am not good at PowerPoint, as I learned this week while I was trying to put it all together, and yeah, it's a skill that I have let go to waste over the last several years. Yeah, so we start with recruiting a couple working group members, develop the proposal, marketing materials, develop outreach and recruitment activity schedule, which is a lot like this work breakdown structure, but it's more what we want from each group and what we're asking them for. So we're not just going in asking for support and nothing else. We start with the departments, the commissions within the city. We move on to our contact at the IU Sustainability Office, which gives us leads on other departments. I've already looked up student groups. There's dozens of them that would fit into this projectized group. Our key target would be sophomores to juniors, or
High school or college?
Or first-year grad students, just people that are going to be around for a little longer than a year. They benefit with project experience, education hours. If they're looking for the certification, it helps them towards that. It also connects them with opportunities in the city, possibly other businesses. I used to run a branch of PMI, which is the Project Management Institute. I ran a branch of a chapter, and it was very similar to this, except that all of my attendees, which were between 30 and 50 each month, were all project managers. And instead of me delivering content, it was always a speaker, or an instructional thing led by somebody else. I'm hoping that it won't always be me. I would like to have experts come in particular areas. Like, for example, I had an idea of showing them how to create a Gantt chart for their entire degree. I was messing around on the IU website where you can look at what it takes to get a degree in business, and seeing it all mapped out into a bar chart time so you can see all your prereqs and have it elaborate over time. That's going to appeal to some people that are more visual than reading it off a list, but just something that they can apply to things that they're already experiencing. The other thing was that when I was running the PMI branch, we had partnerships with staffing agencies that were always looking for PMPs, so they liked having it at their facility. So we didn't pay anything for their facility. It was I think we charged $5 for members to attend. We had it free, but we had a budget for food, which was typically pizza, Panera bread, just general catering kind of things. That's what I'm expecting the budget to cover. Potential venue and food. Now that changes as it scales. If we get more participants, we need more food. Yeah, this is basically my timeline. I wanted to get support, find sponsorship, make sure we have a place to go, and have it all put together actually before we go to the students. I don't know what the reception is going to be. I don't know if it'll work. So I didn't want to put any money out up front, but if you see I have the viability assessment. It's whether up to that point we've gotten everything that we needed, or at least have it in place. And then there's a second viability assessment. If we're not getting at least 15 consistent people, we just abort the program. It's not working. But the idea is to get enough interested students to connect them to the city to help other commissions achieve their projects. And while they're working on their projects, we are providing them with tools and general guidance on project management principles so that they can do a good job.
And you're proposing this to be a new working group?
Yes.
Okay.
And yeah, Propel, Project Realization Opportunities Program for Emerging Leaders.
I like that name.
Thank you. It was partly me, partly AI, so. Yeah.
What would a sponsor look like? Like, what sort of entity would sponsor this?
It could be Crane, somebody that will provide us with financial resources. It could also be IU. Basically, whoever's going to be able to pay for the location and the food, but has a vested interest in the program as it is. One of the things I ran into before when I initially started this program was I was trying to pull in another sponsor that disagreed with the vision. They didn't want to do it for students. They wanted to do it they essentially wanted to turn what I'm proposing now into a remote viewing party. And that just wasn't at all what I was proposing.
Does IU have a program or a project management degree?
Yes. Yes. They have a project management certification degree. If you look it up, they actually talk about the PMP and PMBOK standards. I think they would be a great one that we reach out to.
Do you know what college it's out of?
I think it's Kelly.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And that I'm. The one thing that's missing from this is a stakeholder register. One, I didn't want to make assumptions quite so early about what how certain stakeholders would feel about the program. They could either be somebody that's extremely supportive or somebody that's very resistant, because it just may not go along with their syllabus or I don't know. They might have an issue with it just because it's a kind of a competitive program, but it's not, because we're offering opportunities, not degrees or certifications. We're just trying to give them the experience that they need after they get that project management certificate to get a project management job, which is what I discovered in the past is very hard to do. You can't be a project manager if you haven't been a project manager. Even the certification requires that.
So a couple thoughts on this.
there's not a lot in here about sustainability per se. I like the idea of getting people this experience. I don't know that we are the people to host that.
So this,
I mean, it could be adjusted, perhaps, so.
So this is an administrative project rather than, for the Commission of Sustainability, rather than a sustainable project. Or you could see it as, it's a sustainable project to make sure the Commission on Sustainability thrives.
Yeah, it partly is, it's like the presentation to students. If you were to say, join this group as a student and learn how to learn the kind of management skills it takes to accomplish a project related to sustainability.
There's actually it's called the Green Project Management, which is project management using sustainable methods. There's also PRISM, which is project management integrating sustainable methods. These are also things that I would talk about in the course. Is sustainability projects are all projects. Let me say it this way. Not all projects will be on sustainability, but there's always sustainability practices to use on projects. So it's to make sure that things don't go to waste. Time. I mean, like I said earlier, that project failure is 65% of all projects worldwide.
Okay. Second point is I wouldn't count on working with IU students without direct affiliation with IU. Partly because IU administrative and whatever, and the other part is like you don't have a lot of leverage, and if you're expecting them to do it because it's useful for them, that works initially, and then after a few months you go into tests and things get busy and people kind of drop off. Would it work to do something geared more at high schoolers? There's a whole lot more of them on campus, and that might be easier to work with schools.
Or Ivy Tech.
Or Ivy Tech, yep.
Because Kelly students sometimes very specifically don't want local collaborations. They would prefer to collaborate with people outside Bloomington,
Yep.
whereas Ivy Tech students usually are more focused on Bloomington. And they also have business degrees.
IU's tricky to work with, and I say that as an IU employee.
Well, I mean, even if it was proposed as a student group by somebody that's a student. See, so that takes me into the next part where I don't want to do this forever. The idea is to get this started and then hand it off to students to run in perpetuity.
I would love to have more help with my projects. There needs to be about 5 or 6 of me. But I think there's specific rules that I have to follow to set up internships. They have to be it has to be a formal internship.
Right.
With
And that's why I have it divided with volunteering and participating in commission projects, so that people, well, like we've had many people come in here that want to get involved, but we don't have a specific thing for them to get involved with. And other commissions have things they need help on. But there's no, so actually, if you go into,
that's my biggest, I think.
clearly
that's what
in the
I'm seeing.
deliverables.
Sorry.
The clearly scoped project opportunities for City of Bloomington commissions, having them have estimated hours, timeframes, what exactly they need, so it's not so ambiguous for people that want to volunteer. What Don was saying earlier, having a lot of new projects coming up is the perfect time to figure out how much help you would need. And also, I'm not sure, as far as the high schoolers, I'm not sure about the liability of all the projects that the different commissions are going to be doing. I just don't know what that would be like.
I see sustainability value in the education to volunteer to, actually accomplishing some commission work pipeline. I think that makes a lot of sense, and I think it's kind of bridging some very siloed areas. However, I think that we're gonna have a lot of issues because I don't see the groundwork to have a list of these clearly laid out projects. I don't, you know what I mean?
That-
Like,
that's-
I don't,
So if you go to the work breakdown structure,
okay.
it's the engaged commissions and departments. Third one down, it says project needs. So we're doing that as, he said he was gonna go over to some of the other commissions. We inquire what they're asking for. We give them a prescribed, request for information so that they tell us what they're doing, what they want to do, or what they need help doing, when they need it, how much time, so that when we have this and we have the students coming to this program, we have it like it's an opportunities board that they could come down and see all the different commissions that are looking for help, and they get to pick out which ones they want.
Do you think we could answer that question in this commission?
What's that?
Of what projects we need and what we could do as students? I mean, Sean,
I'm doing it right now.
But like,
So,
is that such a clear-cut thing?
but that's what I mean, is if you create quality drivers, or quality driver questionnaires, which is a way of, figuring out what's important to each commission, and then having them rank it, and then helping them to determine exactly what their needs are. 'Cause, I mean, everybody knows what they wanna do, just
I
in the
think
gist.
a good example, like we want to promote this Sustainable Neighborhoods program. A project could be for a student to, okay, how do we communicate this? You know,
Okay.
what's our marketing plan, and, you know, how do you get this word out, and do you go door to door, do you have create flyers or whatever?
Or Instagram or TikTok, and then
Yeah. Right.
they utilize the skills they
Agreed.
already have to help accomplish the project that we don't have the skills for.
I think a lot of that is stuff you could answer, but I don't know if the rest of us have a good view of that.
Bird's
Maybe-
eye,
Yeah,
yeah.
maybe within
We
each
don't
working
have-
group, there might be like, oh, could you research the different technologies, et cetera, but.
That's why I'm proposing this as a kind of a methodology for all of our projects moving forward, is that we have it clearly laid out and
It's-
documented before we move forward, which will help us with the grant process anyway. This is all gonna have to happen when you submit for a grant.
I get your point about how there's sustainability elements of any project and efficiencies and whatnot. It's still not obvious that this is where that would be housed. I think some sort of program to get students, basically kind of internships in the city offices. I know there's some of those already.
I'm sorry, let me just address this, because you're right, and I forgot because this was in the slide that I didn't bring. This is going to be an independent program. The working group will be working with the program. This is actually to keep liability outside of the city, outside of the school. It's an independent, intramural kind of program, so that while it has support from everybody, no single entity is responsible for it. If you see what I marked out of scope, is student engagement activities outside the monthly meeting. So once we connect somebody to a commission, we're not stating exactly how, well, we're not responsible for how well they're engaged. That's the new commission, or the commission that they're working with. Basically, we're just a project management education course that connects them to sustainable efforts, or city commission efforts. BCOS is just one of those commissions in which,
Are you asking any other commissions for support?
we're gonna go to the other commission. Well, if I get 2 to 3 people here, then we go to the other commissions. And if anybody's interested in helping from there,
Explain to me one more time the purpose of the working group, so the BCOS-centric working group versus what I'm understanding to be sort of, like what you said, intramural, a sort of a professional development club, almost.
right. So actually it kind of merges with, well, for example, what I'm asking for help with is what the community outreach program is asking for help with. We're gonna be making those same connections down the line, and finding sponsorship is also something that could help BCOS generate sponsorship for other projects. Like I said, this is more about strengthening this commission rather than a sustainable project within itself. This is more the administrative process rather than, it's helping me so I can help you. You know what I mean?
Sure.
It
Sure.
sounds like you're wanting to develop sustainable leaders.
Yes.
Have you reached out to the IU Environmental Resilience Institute, because they have the McKinney Climate Fellows, and they might be able to give you some
I think I saw one of the clubs that's, or the student groups that's part of that. I have not reached out to any of them yet because I still need to develop the proposal and marketing materials
okay.
before if I had done that now, it'd be easier to propose to all of you. But since this is just initiation, the only thing I was looking for is project charter, activity schedule, persuasive argument, and stakeholder register, which I did not do.
So it's the Propel working group?
Yes.
Or could it be the community outreach working group picks up the Propel project?
It sounds
I
pretty different to
I think
me.
that would be difficult to generate the same support from, or so, like I said, that there's tacit approval from the mayor and other city commissioners or council members. I think it'll be harder to get them to back a project that's solely BCOS rather than an external project that includes BCOS. Because then it's like they're giving kind of special attention
I
to one
actually
commission.
see it the inverse is that. I feel like creating a Propel specific working group is BCOS making Propel our basically one of our main business up there with waste management.
But that
heat
doesn't make you
mitigation.
the, just because you're working in the waste management group doesn't make you a waste management service. You know what I mean?
I hear
Participating
you.
is
I
only
hear
doesn't-
you, and I'm not, and I think it's just a difference in vernacular, but yeah, I think personally, I'm trying to wrap my brain around it. I'm seeing the administrative model that you're proposing is sustainable, right? It's kind of like what I said, a pipeline, kind of trying to be the matchmaker, right? Match project management students with projects that need management. Is that what I'm understanding?
Yeah, and
Okay.
sustainable students with projects that need sustainability, environmental students with environmental commissions. It's a linking program. But that in itself is a sustainable project.
And you said that it's an independent entity of some sort, separate from the commission, but that there would be.
It would be independent from the commission, but the commission would be a partner with it.
Okay, so the working group is like the partnership
Right.
between BCOS and that independent organization,
Right.
which is run by you, I assume, right? The independent side of things.
I haven't figured that out yet.
Okay.
Because
okay.
I also,
That's
if
the
a
part you were talking
sponsor
about
comes
handing
in,
off to.
right, so
others to
to
run.
a student group.
Yeah.
Because also if a sponsor comes in, I don't want them to think that they're being held liable to the program either. But I also don't want somebody to come in and change like I said, change the program to outside of what it was designed to do. If a company comes in and, the staffing agencies are very helpful, but if they came in and wanted to take ownership of it because they were the sponsors, and then all the people that we are supposed to be having help with commissions are now being pulled as a resource to go do jobs, unrelated to the city, or unrelated to the school, unrelated to sustainability, then it's defeating the purpose of the program.
Okay, so I'm curious about the sponsorships. How do those work? So those are financial sponsorships?
Ideally.
Yeah,
Um,
okay.
yeah.
And they're different from like
That agree with the
where
vision.
the projects are gonna be, right?
Sorry?
Like a sponsorship is not, we've got a project for you to do.
Right.
It's.
No, they're not,
yeah,
no.
we just wanna support the
They agree
program.
with the vision and want to participate in the mission.
Is there anything that they get out? I mean, I don't want to make it sound that transactional, but I mean, is there some incentive other than, oh, this is a neat thing?
I think to
for
meet
them?
students that are project oriented, like
Yeah,
I said
okay.
before, where they may be setting up future opportunities. They may have other programs that they're running that they want more student engagement in, and by participating in that, they publicize their own.
Yeah.
I want it to be a forum for, I want it to be a catalyst for the students to find other things. I don't want it to be a mechanism for things to find the students. Does that make sense?
Yeah. I gotcha.
Okay, well, great initial viewing. We'll probably hear more.
Yeah, and if you want to join the working group, let me know in a week or
Yeah,
so,
if you have more questions.
before next meeting.
Before the next meeting, what's the next step? I'm just wondering.
Next step is planning.
Okay.
That's going to creating the project plan. We would need to identify the stakeholders. It's doing all the research
I
that,
appreciate that. Yeah, and I
Isn't
think
that-
you laid it out here. I meant more, what's the next step for voting on this working group?
Oh, we're
Like,
not
do we
voting.
don't need to vote
No,
or
there's no
anything?
voting on working
Oh,
groups.
people just can, okay.
He's just
I thought we-
introducing what it
okay.
is.
I thought we did vote on, I don't know.
We did.
Or you at least did a presentation, I suppose.
But
I think we had to vote whenever I created the.
Yeah, I think we did
Did we?
vote, but I don't know
we had
that.
to vote on the creation of your working group?
I thought we had to vote too. Yeah, we always vote on creating working group.
We definitely didn't vote on the waste management working group.
There was,
Sounds like some new agenda items for next week.
We just said, hey, I'm gonna do waste
Waste
management.
management working group existed since Joe.
Yeah,
started
I
it.
think it was a long.
Yeah, we
Maybe
could
it
actually
was
make
just
it a new business
grandfathered
today.
Actually,
in.
you're right, I probably just joined.
Grandfathered.
I've never read that in the bylaws.
in. She said that preceded you.
Is there a copy of the bylaws?
You
in
wouldn't
the
know.
school chart?
Yeah,
Sorry.
and then-
Yeah, there is. I'll just,
Okay.
well, no, this wasn't for that, but
Well, maybe
keep
next
it in
meeting
mind
we
for,
can-
yeah.
Well, a working group is an official body of the commission, and so
It naturally would need to be voted on to exist, because you're doing official work on behalf of the commission.
That makes sense.
okay, well, we can maybe introduce that. You can introduce that next meeting. We have 2 minutes for any new business that anyone wants to.
I just have a question.
Yeah.
Do we have to start thinking about putting together a annual report? I know the commission's done it in years past. Is there like a requirement or deadlines or anything that we have to be thinking about?
When's our annual update?
That's a really wonderful question. Do you know if there's any requirements?
I thought you had asked for the,
I'm
working
asking from like the council.
Remember when we did the full report. prior
Joe-
to
group. That's
Emma?
right.
Yeah.
Joe did a full report.
Yeah,
I'm asking if there's a requirement from city council.
I'm not sure.
Okay.
All right.
Well, I don't know either.
Homework.
Fair enough.
That'll be a good question for Matt,
That's
or
a,
for whoever is.
yeah, for Matt. On that, elections will be held next month. I'm not renewing my seat, so I will not be here. Best of luck to all of
This
you.
is our last meeting.
This is my last meeting.
Oh.
So Dave will be running
Save that
next
for the
meeting.
end.
Dave will be running the next meeting where you guys will do elections. So be thinking about if there's a position that you would like.
You've done a great job, Emma.
Oh, thank you. Oh, okay. That's thank you. So if there's no other new business, I'll adjourn.
I just want to say one last thing. I am just very thankful for all the work that you guys are doing, and I'm so excited about this funding and just to see what's going to happen in 2024. So, thank you.
Yeah.
Happy New Year.
Oh, we're
everybody.
gonna say that. Okay. Next meeting's February 13th. Thanks, Dennis.